constitutional self-government, her opponents are not answering any of those arguments. They're not engaging her in a discussion about very important matters. Rather, it's just politics as usual. She's saying that the United States is at a hinge point, that this is actually a choice about, do we want self-government or do we want something else, something that's unknown and untested and unsafe? And so I wish that there could be a debate between Cheney and McCarthy, but I'm afraid it would be a little bit one-sided.
Well, it's interesting. Jeff Zeleny tweeted out that Ann Grayer with CNN was reporting that once Liz Cheney, I'm reading from Jeff Zeleny's tweet, once Liz Cheney came to the House floor, the Republican lawmakers cleared out. Republican Rep Ken Buck is the only member watching Liz Cheney speak. Again, according to Ann Grayer of CNN. I mean, Mia Love earlier, just a moment ago, was talking about what is their message. They don't have a message right now. I mean, they are not talking, as you said, they are not talking about ideas. They are not engaging in debate on these substantive things. They're talking on things which, make for good ratings on Fox and other networks. But it's not about, a battle of ideas with Democrats or even within the Republican Party.
Well, Trump does not offer a governing vision. He offers himself. And he asks people to believe in him. This is now a party that's really defined not by shared ideas or shared convictions, but by shared delusions that are set by Trump himself. This is a epistemological crisis in the Republican Party. Trump wants to determine not just what people think and do. He wants to determine their view of reality itself. He wants people to get rid of their critical judgment in order to accept his total authority. And that is an attack on self-government. That is making our representatives into something that's less than their calling, their constitutional calling. And I think that's what Cheney is calling them out about.
By the way, it's Annie Grayer. I'm sorry, not Ann Grayer. What happens, though? I mean, look, Cheney talked about our freedom only survives if we protect it and we face a threat America has never seen before. If we are a two-party system, if one party is not accepting reality and undermining and pledging allegiance to somebody who is actively undermining our very democratic process, how do we function?
Well, this fever has to eventually break. I'm not sure that it's going to break through rational discourse. I think Republicans are going to have to start losing in key races. If Americans keep supporting them, and if they win the House in the midterms, there's very little reason for a party that thinks it's on the advance to reform. Parties reform when they think they're down. That's what Bill Clinton did with the Democratic Leadership Council. That's what Tony Blair did. These were parties that were down on their luck, and there was another approach that was offered. And so eventually, I think Republicans and others are going to have to say, this isn't going to work politically. That's going to be what breaks the fever.
I want to play one more thing that Congresswoman Cheney said for our viewers and talk about it.
I will not sit back and watch in silence while others lead our party down a path that abandons the rule of law and joins the former president's crusade to undermine our democracy.
What if that fever does not break? What if the Republicans win the House in the midterms?
Well, this is a terrible danger. We have one party, major party at the national level, that is not committed to accepting the outcome of legitimate elections. That's not something that you can tolerate in the long run. That is a recipe for a kind of edging towards authoritarianism. So I think that it's a stark choice. And I think that's what Cheney's contribution was here tonight, major contribution. If she put it in the historical context of this is a country deciding on the nature of its own self-government. And the Republican Party is going to have to play a role in it.
It's an extraordinary moment in our history, and a sad, terrifying moment. Michael Gerson, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Great to talk to you.
We'll continue the conversation in a moment. Democratic Senator Tina Smith joins us to talk about what we heard from Congresswoman Liz Cheney tonight and about the fight inside the Republican Party. And later, the family of a black man shot by North Carolina deputies last month sees police body cam videos of that shooting. Andrew Brown Jr.'s family watched the videos. The attorneys for the family of Andrew Brown Jr., one of whom watched the tapes as well, are with us to tell us what they saw.
I don't think this is fair. I don't think this is fair. A sleeping Wolf gets featured, and I don't. Wolf is clearly more popular than I am. Just because you're cute.
Most accurate price based on the vehicle's accident history. Shop at the all-new Carfax.com.
Age-related macular degeneration may lead to severe...
Let me hit refresh.
So the National Eye Institute did 20 years of clinical studies on a formula only found in PreserVision.
If it were my vision, I'd ask my doctor about PreserVision.
It's the most studied eye
Trending.
brand.
If it were my vision, I'd look into PreserVision.
Only PreserVision AREDS 2 contains the exact nutrient formula recommended by the NEI to help reduce the risk of moderate to advanced AMD progression.
I have AMD. It is my vision, so my plan includes PreserVision. With Canva, designing anything is easy and free.
Anyone on our team can open Canva and create professional marketing material in minutes.
With thousands of designer-made templates, getting started is simple. Canva also has all the premium photos, videos, and helpful tools you need to bring any idea to life.
When I found Canva, I fell in love with design. Now we're making more content than ever before.
Start designing for free at canva.com.
More than one.
Yes, I see that Christopher Brown is on the trending board twice. And Wolf's on the trending board sleeping, and I'm not on the trending board at all. Can someone explain that to me, please?
Style, we see them.
Mother and child in vehicle. Mother is unable to exit the vehicle. Injuries are unknown.
Thank you, OnStar.
My son.
And why is Christopher Brown on the trending board twice? Are those two different accounts? So yeah, Wolf bets that he can invite 3 new people before I get 4, and Wolf is on the trending board, and again, I'm not. Let me take a look at my broadcast.
A hopeless struggle.
Wolf's on there with no sound, gets on the trending board. Who said hello from Portland? That was me.
Latuda was proven to significantly reduce bipolar depression.
Unfair. Very unfair.
Now I'm feeling connected, empowered.
Latuda is not for everyone. Call your doctor about unusual mood changes, behaviors.
How many viewers? I have 3 viewers. Wolf has 5 viewers.
Have an increased risk of death or stroke. Call your doctor about fever, stiff muscles, and confusion, as these may be life-threatening, or uncontrollable muscle movements, as these may be permanent. These are not all the serious side effects.
This is where I want to be.
Talk to your doctor and ask if Latuda can make the difference you've been looking for in your bipolar depression symptoms.
Fact. Most people pay way too much to file their taxes. Oh, tickles. Also fact. Tax Act costs up to 20% less than TurboTax. Pretty cool, huh? So make the switch. File for less and get more with Tax Act.
5 years ago, I told you your mattress was awful. Remember this guy? And we're still using raw eggs, yes. Are you still sleeping on that hot, sticky memory foam mattress, or did you take my advice and buy the only mattress with the purple grid? Because the purple grid inside the purple mattress isn't like all those other mattresses using the same memory foam mattress. Sweltering and angry, remembers things, apparently.
This spring, get free sheets and a pillow when you buy a select mattress. Shop at purple.com/TV.
I think the sketchy website I bought this turtle from stole all my info. Ooh, have you looked on the bright side? Discover never holds you responsible for unauthorized purchases on your card. That's my turtle. Fraud protection. Discover something brighter.
4-hour breaking news. GOP Congresswoman Liz Cheney talking about the assault on truth as the former president continues to spread lies about the election, and now she's on the verge of losing her leadership role for calling him out. More on that in a moment. There was another moment of questionable truth on the Hill today, a heated moment at the Senate hearing on the coronavirus. Once again, Republican Senator Rand Paul clashed with Dr. Anthony Fauci.
What did he do
Senator
this
Paul
time?
used the time to question Fauci about the origins of the virus and a theory about the Wuhan lab as part of the exchange.
For years, Dr. Ralph Baric, a virologist in the U.S., has been collaborating with Dr. Shi Zhengli of the Wuhan Virology Institute, sharing his discoveries about how to create superviruses. This gain-of-function research has been funded by the NIH. Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute.
Do they
of
fund
Virology.
Dr. Baric?
We do not fund
You fund Dr. Barrick's gain-of-function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain-of-function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina. If you look at the grant and you look at the progress reports, it is not gain-of-function, despite the fact that people tweet that,
So
they
do you
write
still-
about it.
Well, joining me now for more perspective, this is Senator Tina Smith, who was also at the hearing today. Senator Smith, appreciate you joining us. I want to get to what happened at the hearing with Dr. Fauci. First, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you your reaction to what Congresswoman Liz Cheney just said on the House floor ahead of her all but certain House chair as GOP conference chair tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Anderson. You know, I was watching here and I was just struck by how dignified she was. I suspect that if Liz Cheney and I were to fill out a political questionnaire, we would find that we disagree on almost everything, but we both love our country. And to think that she is being driven out of leadership of her party because she speaks the truth, because she tells the truth about the big lie that President Trump, former President Trump, continues to push, I think is just such a sad commentary. But yet she just was so strong and so dignified. And I think, as someone said, she was really speaking to history tonight.
During today's COVID hearing, you were next to question Dr. Fauci after exchange with Senator Paul, and I just want to play that portion of today's hearing.
Dr. Fauci, what is the impact of conspiracy theories peddled by Senator Rand Paul and others on Americans' willingness to take this vaccine? A vaccine that, by all accounts, is remarkable for its safety and efficacy.
Well, conspiracy theories certainly are not helpful in what we're trying to do. I guess I can say that with some degree of confidence.
I'm wondering, were you planning to ask that question, or was that just in relation to what you had just heard from Senator Paul?
I mean, I went right after Senator Paul, and I'm laughing because Dr. Fauci is the master of understatement, I think, in his response to saying that these conspiracy theories are not helpful. No, I was planning on asking a question, which I went to next, about what we are learning about how to overcome people's resistance to the virus, resistance to taking the virus, and some success stories that we've had in Duluth, Minnesota. But here you have Rand Paul. He's a United States Senator. He is a physician. He serves on the Health Committee, and he chooses to use his time to peddle these ridiculous conspiracies about how somehow Dr. Fauci is responsible for the COVID-19 virus. It's just such a sad commentary and so completely beneath what the work is that we have to do on the Health Committee and in the Senate.
Yeah, I mean, he's an ophthalmologist. You would think that he would have more respect, at least for medical science. Dr. Fauci, he later told CNN's Dr. Sanjay Gupta that he thinks senators might be playing to the cameras. It's certainly, that could certainly be it. The idea that Fauci is somehow a villain to Trump-allied politicians, what does one even say to that idea?
Well, I know, and let's be honest. I mean, this is not the first time that Senator Paul has done this. He does this over and over again. It's sort of his favorite ploy. So, I mean, that's the problem. And here we have Dr. Fauci, who has basically dedicated his life to science, to protecting Americans' health, and to be maligned like this, it must get pretty exhausting, I think. But, and the point of this, of course, is that we have serious business to do in the Health Committee. We have variants that are springing up. We are trying to how do we get to increasing vaccination uptakes in this country. We have questions about how young people are going to be adapting to taking this vaccine now that it's approved for children. So we have serious business to be doing, and not just sort of this kind of play to the camera that I think we saw today, and we see, frankly, too often.
What do you think we do to get more people vaccinated? I mean, whether it's vaccine hesitancy, whether it's access issues, whatever it may be.
Well, one of the things that I think we're learning in Minnesota and around the country is that what we might characterize as hesitancy to get the vaccine is actually just lack of opportunity. You know, people, this is what we learned in Duluth. We put a pop-up clinic right near the transit station, and people that are running from job to home to childcare to the grocery store, there it is, right where they can get to it easily and conveniently. They get signed up, they get the vaccine, they go on their way. So they're not hesitant to get the vaccine. They just didn't have the opportunity to get it. I think that's one of the things that we're learning. There's lots of reasons why. There's a continuum of reasons why people don't get the vaccine, but it is, we can make a big headway. We can make big headway by going to people where they are with trusted providers.
We should also point out, Dr. Fauci, in his exchange with Senator Paul, did stress that he fully supports further investigation into the origins of COVID-19. What more do you want to know about what happened in Wuhan?
Well, I, of course, want to understand how this happened and what, and there is an investigation that's going on right now. So I think that that's very, very important. I think that we need to understand from a scientific basis also what happened. But to somehow impugn the credibility of Dr. Fauci for whatever reason is just completely unacceptable.
Yeah. Senator Smith, I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Up next, the family of Andrew Brown Jr. gets to see more of the police body camera footage of his fatal shooting, what their attorneys are saying about what they saw.
So Wolf Wolf is still on the trending board, sleeping on his live stream with no sound most of the time, and I'm not featured at all. Can someone explain that to me? Trending board. Wolf Wolf is trending because he thinks he's cuter than I am.
Now he uses a capful of TheraBreath.
What does his title say? I bet I can invite 3 new people before Harvard Journal to get 4 more. Yeah? You think you're so cute, Wolf Wolf? Well, it looks like you're winning because you're on the trending board and I'm not, and I don't understand why.
Oh, that's awesome.
Let's look.
With new finish.
Who's on the trending board? I'm looking.
Jamaica. Best decision ever. Feel the sound.
Yep. I'm not on the trending board, but Wolf Wolf still is. Let me look at my broadcast. My broadcast has 4 people and 1 like, and Wolf Wolf has how many? 7 people and I think 1 like. All right, Wolf Wolf, you're clearly winning this round, and it's not fair at all. But
Robin had showed me that my money can work.
Anyway,
It's just all right there on your phone, and it's easy and clear. It's given us the power, the tools, the knowledge that we need.
Tex-Mex.
You did with Tex-Mex? Terminate!
Here to help.
Are the color cartridges in your printer ready for another school year?
What's cyan mean?
It means sayonara, honor roll. The Eptonico tank. No more cartridges. It comes with an incredible amount of ink. Just fill and chill.
Obsession has many names. This is ours. The Lexus IS. All in on sports sedan.
Lease the 2021 IS 300 for $369 a month for 36 months.
Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
Under the Republican Party, go from this
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
to this. CNN's Fareed Zakaria explores a radical rebellion, the transformation of the GOP, Sunday at 8.
George Morland presents a pop quiz on the history of plumbing. The first flushing toilet appeared around what time? 500 BC, 100 AD, 3000 BC, or 1500 BC? Need a hint?
You need a plumber's helper? What's that?
It was 1500 BC on the island of Crete. If it's plumbing, we have it.
George Foreman Plumbing, the water heater king.
Look, if your wireless carrier was a guy, you'd leave me tomorrow. Not very flexible. Not great at saving. You deserve better. Xfinity Mobile. Now they have unlimited for just $30 a month. $30. And they're number one in customer satisfaction. I'm deleting it. So break free from the big three.
Xfinity Internet customers, take the savings challenge at xfinitymobile.com/mysavings or visit an Xfinity store to learn how our Switch Squad makes it easy to switch and save hundreds.
I'm Jeremy Diamond at the White House, and this is CNN.
In North Carolina, the family of a black man fatally shot by police last month were allowed to watch more body cam videos of how an attempt to serve an arrest warrant led to the death of Andrew Brown Jr. In a moment, we'll be joined by two attorneys for the family, one of whom saw the videos. First, Brian Todd joins us from Elizabeth City, North Carolina, with the latest. So, how is the video being described to members of the community, and what's the reaction so far?
Well, Anderson, it was nothing short of extraordinary just a couple of hours ago when the attorneys for the Brown family came out and described what they saw on this body camera footage. And since that time, protesters have been marching in the street. They've broken up the night now, but they were very animated earlier after they heard these accounts. It was extraordinary, Anderson, because this was a polar opposite account from the version of this given by Andrew Womble, the district attorney, several days ago in court. At that day, April 28th, in court, he said that Andrew Brown, quote, made contact with the deputies with his vehicle, and only then were shots fired. Well, a couple hours ago, the attorneys for the Brown family, after having viewed at least 16 minutes of body camera footage and possibly as much as 18 and a half minutes of this footage, had a completely opposite account of this. They said that at no point in the tape that they viewed did Andrew Brown make contact with the deputies. In fact, they said it was the opposite, that the deputies actually made contact with his car first with their hands. They said that when they came upon the scene, Andrew Brown was sitting there in his car, hands on the wheel, that at some point he might have even been on his phone, and that the car only moved after shots were fired, and that at no point did he pose any kind of a threat to the deputies. It was really an extraordinary account. It was very moving, and I have to say that the attorneys had a lot of detail in their account that Andrew Womble did not provide in court several days ago. The attorneys were very specific about what they saw, and it made a very compelling argument, at least, to those of us who were gathered there listening to them, that Andrew Brown did not pose a threat to these deputies. So they went from that to calling for prosecutions, arrests, jail sentences for the three deputies who did the shooting. They're also repeating their calls tonight for the district attorney, Andrew Womble, to recuse himself from this case because they argue that he works much too closely with the sheriff's department in this building behind me, with the deputies involved here, and that he cannot possibly, conduct this case, this investigation, and any trials in any kind of an objective way. Andrew Womble steadfastly still tonight refusing to recuse himself. And
Brian Todd, I appreciate that. I want to speak to the attorneys now. Joining me now, two attorneys for the family of Andrew Brown Jr., Harry Daniels and Chance Lynch. Mr. Lynch, you were able to view the body cam footage today with the Brown family. Can you just explain what you saw?
Absolutely, Anderson. First, thanks for having us. Today was an emotional day. I was able to view the footage with two of Mr. Brown's sons, and it was very clear to us. We went through 6 videos. One was the dash cam of one of the vehicles, and then 5 body cam videos that we were able to watch.
From different officers, different vantage points?
That's right, and it's different vantage points. Still, even with the body cams, as you can imagine, we were only able to see what their bodies were actually facing. And so we were limited to be able to see all of the surroundings. Of course, you got to remember, Anderson, that their faces were redacted. The presiding judge ordered that some of that would be redacted. So we didn't get to see any faces. We were able to see weapons, and we were absolutely able to see Mr. Brown sitting in his car, afraid. The look on his face, he was terrified and was in shock when they arrived on the scene. And once a gunshot was fired, the car backed in reverse. He turned his wheel and began to traveled away from the police officers that were on the scene. And as he traveled across the grass in his yard, they unloaded their weapons, subsequently causing a shot to the back of his head where he crossed the street and crashed into the tree in his neighbor's yard.
So the first shot, was it clear to you when that was fired in terms of the overall time of this, from them first getting there, why the first shot was fired and who shot it?
Anderson, that's a really good question. When they got on the scene, there was so much chaos going on. They were yelling different things. Some were saying hands up. Others were saying get out of the car. The commands were very unclear. You could see Mr. Brown's hands at all times. It appears that in one vantage point, he may have been holding his phone. His right hand, if I'm not mistaken, was on the steering wheel. So his hands were seen the entire time. Never at any vantage point did we see where Mr. Brown was a threat to the police.
And just to be clear, the district attorney said that when officers approached and attempted to open a door in Mr. Brown's car, the vehicle backed up and made contact with them, stopped, made contact again. Did you see that?
Anderson, I'm not sure. I said this earlier during the press conference. I'm not sure what video the elected is talking about. All that I can tell you is this. They chose the footage that we would get to see today. They chose the images that we would get to see. They also chose the evidence that they would redact. Now, what we saw today was clear. When Mr. Brown put his car in reverse, there were no officers behind his car. Now, there were two officers that it appears that they were both reaching out at the same time to attempt to grab maybe the door handle. That shot was fired, and when Mr. Brown began to go backwards, they may have been reaching out toward Mr. Brown, but Mr. Brown never caused or operated his vehicle to go towards an officer. So I'm not sure what the elected is talking about.
So when the first shot was fired, how close was it fired? Was it fired, I assume, at Mr. Brown, or what did you see?
Absolutely. You could see the, you could hear the shot, and then you could see the bullet hole go in the front of the windshield. At that point, Mr. Brown puts his car in reverse, and he goes backward.
So was he hit? Was he hit by that first shot?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he was hit by that first shot or not. He was able to try to get away. It was clear on his face that he was afraid for his life, and he was trying to get away from the ambush and those officers that were present. And when he drove away, and I think one of the things that's very important here is when he was driving away, and there's a section of land where there is pavement for the cars to park. He had crossed that pavement driving across the yard, and the officers stopped midway of that pavement and began to unload their weapons. So many shots were fired that we found great difficulty to be able to count the number of shots.
Anderson, I stated before that the term fleeing was used initially. It is clear that Mr. Brown was trying to save his own life. As the officers get on scene and immediately start shooting Mr. Brown, and he's not doing anything to cause a threat, one would think they are there to kill me, and I need to get away. They were there. They shot at him. He tried to save his life, and they in fact killed him.
So where do things stand now on the video actually being released to the public? Do you guys know?
Well, the position, I don't know if North Carolina law is currently in section, legislature currently in section and trying to get body cams made public. I know they are moving in that direction pretty rapidly. It's a bipartisan effort. However, the family, we are making our own petition for the release of the videos, the full videos, no redaction, to be released to us, and the family has an overarching compelling reason to get those videos. That petition will be filed. I do know that we will be moving fairly quickly on that matter to go before the courts to make our arguments to get the videos released.
Well, Harry Daniels, Chance Lynch, I really appreciate your time, and we'll continue to keep following this. I appreciate it. Still a lot of questions unanswered. We end tonight with Republican reaction to our breaking news on Liz Cheney's speech on the House floor ahead of a vote likely to oust her from Republican leadership. Cheney says she will not go quietly, that she will continue to talk about the former president's lies, and she says that the party is abandoning the rule of law. Moments ago, Republican congressman who supported Cheney's stand, Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, tweeted this, quote, "This is leadership. This is integrity. This is Liz Cheney, and I'm damn proud to support her." That vote is expected tomorrow morning. We'll cover that, of course. The news continues. I'm going to hand it over to Chris for Criminal Prime Time. Chris?
It's a very important night. This is a pivotal night, and we're going to see which way it takes us. But the choices are pretty clear, and the determination of one side of the aisle is now more clear than ever. Appreciate the coverage, Anderson. It's important to share this night with you. I'm privileged to be here. I'm Chris Cuomo, and welcome to Prime Time. We've lived a lot of history in recent years, but you're going to have to remember tonight. Tonight, you witnessed the moment that the GOP decided to turn its back on self-government and to become something less than that. We don't know what yet. Liz Cheney gave a speech tonight in defense not simply of her own fate as number 3 in the leadership, but the fate of her party and, in a larger sense, our way of life. Now, be clear. I'm sure the media will hype what she said. It was not revelatory. That's why it's so important. This wasn't about Liz
Peter.
Cheney identifying
How are you?
ideas that we had never imagined, rhetoric that took us to a different place. It was simple. She gave a simple statement of reality. Trump lost. And the big lie is just that, a lie. And when leaders refuse to stand for anything, all those whom they lead will fall for anything.
I'm trying to reply.
I want you to
Why
hear
isn't it letting
the
me
main
reply?
argument. No one who wants her out, remember this, has even tried to counter what you are about to hear. In fact, the entire conference reportedly, the entire right side of the aisle walked out during her words.
Today, we face a threat America has never seen before. A former president who provoked a violent attack on this Capitol in an effort to steal the election has resumed his aggressive effort to convince Americans that the election was stolen from him. He risks inciting further violence. Millions of Americans have been misled by the former president. They have heard only his words, but not the truth, as he continues to undermine our democratic process, sowing seeds of doubt about whether democracy really works at all. Those who refuse to accept the rulings of our courts are at war with the Constitution. Remaining silent and ignoring the lie emboldens the liar. I will not participate in that.
Remaining silent and ignoring the lie emboldens the liar. We have all lived this truth. What they have ignored on the right about Trump, they have now empowered, and they are owned by it. Okay? None of them stayed to listen to her speech. None of them are open to any idea other than what they are told to believe, and we'll discuss why. One member, Representative Buck, was there. One member has come forward and said, since Buck, I don't even know what he thought of it. Hey, I support what she said.
Kinzinger.
One. An insurrectionist openly admitted on this show last night what Cheney is trying to get people in power to understand. Trump is a con. Listen to him.
And last year, I honestly put a man above Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. I believed in man. I believed what was being told to me. He was the president of our United States. I went to Washington like he called us to. Maybe I believed that America was being robbed of a president, and I now know that that was a lie.
His excuse will be ignorance. The men and women in power do not have that excuse. Their explanation is only this: arrogance of self-interest. They know better. The difference between these, that guy knows now that believing the lie got him in trouble. So he wants to talk about it. For the politicians in Trump's pocket, they believe the opposite, that supporting the lie is the way to avoid trouble in primaries. Just listen to one who has fallen the farthest.
Wolf, if you're still on the feature
To try
board.
to erase Donald Trump from the Republican Party is insane. And the people who try to erase him are going to wind up getting erased.
He is exactly right. Lindsey Graham is exactly right. He once condemned Trump as a con and warned he would destroy the party. Now he is a craven co-conspirator, but he just told you the truth. The party has capitulated to the man. Graham wants to stay in power, so he will not counter the man. Say what you will about that decision. It is obviously a shameful bargain to strike, but it is exactly the kind of deal that Donald Trump loves to make. And right now, the party of Trump, and that's all they are now. Party of Trump, P-O-T, a pot filled with Trump tripe. I say this not out of some sense of desire for more confrontation. We have plenty. This is for the real Republicans out there. You are better than this. You are people who believe that conservatism means something, certainly something more than empty opposition. Liz Cheney does not represent some far-flung notion of you. That used to be what you all were, and now there is one. Your party is now all about supporting a lie and destroying anyone who dares speak the truth. That's never what you said you were about. Never. How can you stand for this? And for what gain? Who among you will make a stand for something bigger than Trump? You have the facts in your favor. Tonight will not go away. It will be remembered, and not for the grandiosity of the moment, but for how low people are willing to go. And for what? It is not about the truth. It never has been. Tomorrow, Trump's own former acting attorney general is expected to reaffirm the truth to Congress. How do we know? CNN obtained Jeffrey Rosen's prepared testimony. He says in it, quote, "During my tenure, the DOJ maintained the position publicly announced previously that the department had been presented with no evidence of widespread voter fraud at a scale sufficient to change the outcome of the 2020 election." You know what? I don't even like the statement. Why? We were presented with no evidence. Oh, so you didn't look? Evidence sufficient to change the outcome. Oh, so there was proof. You see where you are right now? You see where you are. You are in a position where nothing will be enough. Nothing. Andrew Brown's family has been put in this untenable position of having to tell us what happened in that moment. You think there's any description that they can give that people on your side of the aisle will not immediately say, well, look what he said. It's not true. Unless Trump says it, it's not true. The facts are clear. But you are no longer about that. You are about what is desired. What do you desire? The party of Trump desires fear and division. MAGA itself was always a suggestion of going back. It was inherently regressive. Great again. When in America's history has she been more free, more accepting, more understanding of what we're about here? When? Tell me. Because we know where you want to go now. And I have to say you, because this is your party, and until you stand up and say, no, it isn't. This is where you are. This is who you are. You are going back to the days when this country was explicitly about color and class. You have 47 states under your influence of your party introducing more than 360 bills to suppress the vote, particularly in minority communities.
Let's refresh this.
Don't smile so fast, Red Hat Brigade, that is struggling to make it work. Yes, poor black folks are going to get hit by this, but so are a lot of you. Poor is poor, my brother and sister. And these are not about color, these laws, just like Jim Crow. They weren't explicitly about color, they were color neutral. But class catches you just the same. And you guys, white and black, are going to be on long lines. Long lines.
Yep.
With fewer people,
Wolf was still on the
less
future
time
board.
to exercise your right to fight for anything better in your life. You're going to be put in the back of the line again. And in the party of Trump, defending a move like this means doing what they do most and best. Lie. Like Trump's main minion did today. Listen to this.
Those Jim Crow laws were drafted by Democrats. They were implemented by Democrats, and they kept Democrats in power. This legislation, to use a phrase that has been popularized on the media recently, is Jim Crow 2.0.
This man is proof that politics makes you stupid. This is a debate champion, Ivy League twice over. And that is one of the stupidest arguments I can imagine. He's right. They were Democrats. You know what they also were? Bigots. That's what they were. And you know who now owns that mantle? He does. Because he stands for laws that are nothing but discriminatory based on class, face, and place. Jim Crow laws were aimed at making it nearly impossible for Black Americans to vote, without ever mentioning color. The remedy is sitting in the House and the Senate, the For the People Act. It is the only way to change redistricting. Why do you think you have 50 senators on the right side of the aisle that represent less than 25% of this country? Think about that. 50 senators, half the Senate, a quarter of our population. Why? Redistricting. It's also why they are so extreme, because they're playing to a minority. And as long as they rig the game to have the districts the way they are, they can do that. And the only thing that would stop them is some idea of pride or higher purpose or principle. And those are gone because they have decided to mirror a man who has never said those words in deference to himself while telling the truth. The Rules Committee deadlocked tonight on whether to advance the voting rights bill. Democrats say they still have a procedural avenue to bring it to the floor. I hope they do. People need to see where you are on this law and why. This is not both sides. Oh yes, nobody's got a stranglehold on lowering our expectations and feeding our disaffection. That is for sure. Left and right give way to reasonable far too often, but not now. This is about one side being the worst I have ever seen. Never has one man bent on lying had so much power over so many at a time that mattered so much in our modern history. Liz Cheney tonight will be remembered for being the one person, a woman, to stand up and say to a group of largely men, you are cowards and you have forgotten why we are here. The only question is, what's going to happen next? CNN's chief congressional correspondent, Manu Raju, was there. I am right that it was just Buck in attendance. Nobody else would be there for it. Is that true?
Yeah, he was the one that was there. There were a handful of other members, about 5 to 10 or so, who were on the House floor who later left. It's not totally unusual for that to happen. Typically, these speeches do happen late at night. When they do happen, there are not members there. Members are typically only on the floor during votes themselves. But one member who was not in the chamber, Chris, was Kevin McCarthy, the Republican leader of the House, who had actually told me earlier in the evening that he had spoken to Liz Cheney just a few days ago, even as he is orchestrating her ouster tomorrow, something that will happen with also the support of Donald Trump. But what is interesting what Cheney's remarks is that she seemed to be making it very clear. Part of that was aimed at Kevin McCarthy himself. She had said that I will not sit back and watch in silence while others lead our party down a path that abandons the rule of law and joins the former president's crusade to undermine our democracy. And I asked her as she came off the floor, were you referring to Kevin McCarthy? And she said, I think